Welcome to the NatRefs Show, a weekly podcast on the ever-changing world of natural refrigerants, brought to you by Shecco and component manufacturer Teco. Today we will be discussing the major news items impacting the world of natural refrigerants. My name is Michael Garry, editor of Shecco's Accelerate America magazine and North American editor for Shecco. And I will be hosting today's podcast from Shecco's New York area bureau outside of New York City. I'm joined today by my colleagues in Brussels, Belgium, Charlotte McLaughlin, European-based reporter, and Marie Batesti, who works on the market development team at Shecco. Hello, ladies.
Hello. Hi, Michael.
Good to be with you. Today we have a full agenda, and much of what we'll be discussing will fall into the ammonia category. Marie will be talking about a webinar that Shecco will be hosting next week on the 9th of May involving Danfoss and ammonia safety. She'll also be talking about another webinar the following week with Carnot. I will be discussing several developments on the ammonia front in the U.S. And finally, last but not least, Charlotte will be talking about a Swiss dairy company cutting its ammonia charge dramatically. So, we'll start today's proceedings by hearing from Marie.
So, Shecco Base, which is the market intelligence arm of Shecco, is organizing a series of webinars in May to provide a thorough analysis of the latest trends for natural refrigerants globally. So what Michael was referring to was our upcoming Danfoss webinar hosted by Shecco Base on 9 May, entitled Ensuring Safety in China's Industrial Refrigeration. So the webinar will highlight challenges and opportunities in ensuring the safe handling of natural refrigerants in China and reflect on lessons learned and latest market developments from China Refrigeration, which was held in April, as well as Atmosphere China in April as well. So obviously, natural refrigerants for industrial refrigeration in China, clearly ammonia will be the main focus. For that, we will have several high-level speakers, such as Christian Strand, who's Vice President Industrial Refrigeration at Danfoss, who will bring up the global perspective of the topic, as well as Jackie Chow, who's Marketing Communications Manager at Danfoss China. We will also have Mrs. Ju Cheng, who's Chief Engineer Assistant at Yantai Moon, and she will present the Chinese equipment manufacturer's perspective. Alvaro de Oña, who's Chief Operating Officer at Shecco, will also present general market trends, opportunities and challenges on this topic. So it should be quite interesting. Also on 16 May, Carnot Refrigeration will organize a webinar hosted by Shecco Base. So this will be focusing on CO2 industrial refrigeration in North America. So you will have the opportunity to learn expectations for future developments, as well as what's happening right now in CO2 industrial refrigeration in this region. The webinar will also highlight the benefits of CO2 in industrial refrigeration compared to HFCs, HCFCs, ammonia, and low-charge ammonia. And funny fact, the webinar will take place 2 days before the opening of Carnot's new facility for CO2, so it should be quite interesting.
Okay, how our listeners can access these webinars, how do they do that, Marie?
The easiest way is to subscribe to our general newsletters for our B2B websites. We have a bi-weekly newsletter, and through this newsletter we send all the information you need to know about our upcoming webinars. So I would say that's the easiest, because otherwise we promote it as well. Well, on the shecco.com website, we published a press release entitled Shecco Base Webinar Series to Analyze Natural Refrigerant Opportunities this summer, and you can find all the links, so it's on shecco.com. And finally, we are very active on social media. So if you follow Shecco Twitter as well as LinkedIn accounts, we regularly promote those webinars and for sure, since the Danfoss webinar is going to happen on Wednesday, we're going to increase the communications through those tools.
Right. Okay. So again, if you go on any of the shecco websites, which is ammonia21.com, r744.com, and hydrocarbons21.com, and sign up on those sites to receive a twice weekly newsletter summarizing the news of the week. That's the best way to hear about and connect with the webinars. But also you can find out about it on shecco.com by clicking on the press release announcing this, as well as through our social media, LinkedIn and Twitter. I think both of those will be extremely interesting. Certainly the ammonia safety issue is a worldwide challenge. We've seen a lot of accidents happening with facilities using large charges of ammonia. So safety has become very important to a lot of operators around the world. And so we'll very interested to see what the Chinese have to say about that. It's also a reason why a lot of people are cutting their ammonia charge to make their facilities safer, and in the event of a leak, making it a less dangerous situation. So, and of course, CO2 is what we call no charge, no ammonia at all, and that's what Carnot is introducing in the industrial market. So it'll be interesting to hear about that.
And if I may add a little thing, I find it quite interesting for the ammonia webinar to demystify a little bit the safety issue, because I feel like regarding the update of standards, international standards and everything, there's a lot of talks regarding the safety risk and the best way to prevent it. But it's quite interesting to put all the facts on the table with really experts working daily on the field, in order to really see what's behind like this myth of ammonia or hydrocarbons are not safe, but to have really like a thorough assessment based on facts, so we understand better what is this issue about international standards. Is it legitimate to update it to allow higher charges? I'm more thinking about this hydrocarbon case, but it's also the case for ammonia. There's still a barrier for natural refrigerants in general regarding standards. So I think it's quite useful to have this kind of like condensed 1 hour webinar where you can have all the information in order to know fully the topic. And then go back to your management or something and really be aware of the risks, but also the opportunities.
That's a great point. Demystification, I think, setting forth the facts is the best way to deal with the issues concerning safety and risk. Okay, thank you very much, Marie. We're looking forward to those webinars. Now I'm going to bring us to the U.S. North American market with a few news items that we've been discussing this week. First one just happened yesterday. We heard about the acquisition of a major industrial ammonia company, Emmen Refrigeration, that they were acquired by Source Capital, which is an Atlanta-based private equity firm. Emmen is located in Maryland, and they design and build and service industrial refrigeration equipment for cold storage and food processing. But what's most notable about them, we've written quite a bit about them in our magazine Accelerate America, is they're a pioneer of the ammonia CO2 cascade system going back to the early 2000s. And to date, they've installed more than 65 of these ammonia CO2 cascade systems worldwide, most of them in North America. This past January, M&M introduced a line of low-charge ammonia package systems, their first such line of package systems called Pure Refrigeration. So they are a major player when it comes to reducing the charge of ammonia, either through the use of CO2 in cascade systems, where the ammonia is confined to the mechanical room, or through these new package systems. So the fact that they were acquired shows the value that they've built up through the use of and the distribution of these systems.
And Michael, do we have any idea what this can mean for the industry? Is this good for natural refrigerants? Do you think this private equity firm will interfere too much with the day-to-day running, or do you think they're going to be very hands-off and let M&M Refrigeration do whatever they want?
Well, M&M CEO Dwayne Marshall said, "We will continue to serve our customers and bring cutting-edge products to the industry while honoring the core values our company was built on." So I think it sounds as though they'll be continuing to operate pretty much the way they have been. But what Source Capital will give them is an infusion of, as their name suggests, capital. So that'll help them as they launch this new product line. They'll have more support to roll it out, things like that. So I think it's a plus for M&M, plus for the industry, plus for low charge developments. And looking at another company, GEA, it's a German manufacturer. Back in March, I saw them speak at the IIAR, Natural Refrigeration Conference and Expo. They announced that some of their low-charge ammonia chillers, what they call the Blue, BLU line, which have done well in Europe, are now being sold and marketed in the United States. So again, more developments here with respect to low-charge ammonia options. GEA said it's sold nearly 300 units of its what they call Blue Astrum chiller in Europe over the last several years. This is a chiller that uses a screw compressor, up to 492 tons of refrigeration with an ammonia charge between 100 and 200 pounds, roughly. So a small charge, a good amount of refrigeration capacity. They have another chiller that uses a reciprocating compressor. So again, we're seeing another entry into the growing low charge marketplace. Finally, I just want to mention that for folks operating in the U.S. Who use large amounts of ammonia, and I know a lot of people are cutting their ammonia charge, but still plenty of facilities use over 10,000 pounds of ammonia. They have to register with the Department of Homeland Security, the DHS, which of course was set up after 9/11 to prevent terrorist attacks. Ammonia being a toxic, dangerous chemical. The DHS wants to ensure that facilities are taking adequate steps to prevent a terrorist attack. So if you have a facility with 20,000 pounds or more of ammonia at a concentration of 20% or higher, or 10,000 pounds of ammonia or more of anhydrous ammonia concentrations of 1% or higher, you have to register with the DHS. In particular, their CFATS, or Chemical Facility Anti-Terrorism Standards Program. You can go on their website, dhs.gov, to do that. So if you haven't registered, the DHS might be a good thing to do. So moving back over to across the pond, back to Brussels, we're going to hear now from Charlotte, who's going to talk about another low charge scenario.
Okay, thanks, Michael. The news was that the Swiss dairy company called Emmi, a lot of people in Europe may be familiar with the yogurt drink Benecol and these kind of cold coffee drinks like cafe lattes, and they have a lot of milk and cheese products that are quite popular in Europe. So they approached SSP Kasselplaner in 2017 to retrofit their old ammonia system to a lower charge ammonia system, basically. And this reduced the charge of ammonia that they're using by a lot. It went from 3,600 kilograms to around 750, which is quite a significant reduction. But it's still able to provide 2,700 kilowatts of cooling power. So they didn't lose any of the cooling or anything like that, but they just changed to a smaller, lower charge system. And they also now employ heat reclaim as well. So they've kind of upgraded and made more modern their ammonia refrigeration system.
That's great. Tell me, Charlotte, we hear a lot in the U.S. about this low charge trend. Are you seeing that trend similarly in the European marketplace?
Yeah, I think we definitely are seeing a lot more, but I don't think the drastic reductions in charge amounts is something that we're seeing, because there's so many. I think in Europe it's a very different story, because there isn't so much regulation on the use of ammonia. So like Europe doesn't have the same requirements like OSHA or the EPA or the Department of Homeland Security on ammonia refrigeration, because I think it's been used for so long that it's become quite a comfortable technology, and people are not so worried about the safety requirements of it. But in Europe, I guess the big trend is towards CO2 transcritical systems. And this, we know, is not just for like the safety reasons, but kind of because the technology is getting cheaper, and also it's a lot more compact and easier to install, is one of the reasons people cite for using it instead of ammonia.
Well, that wraps up today's NatRefs Show. I want to thank my colleagues Marie and Charlotte, and thank you for listening. We'll catch you next week on the NatRefs Show.